Yes, I was supposed to fly back home today, but long story short, I missed my flight. Although I've come close in the past, this was my first time missing a flight, so I can cross yet another item off my bucket list on this trip. It's been a pretty eventful one. Because I'm flying with a small airline from a pretty small airport with only 10 gates to an even smaller one with only 4 gates, the next flight out isn't until tomorrow morning. But there is no room for me on that plane, so I won't be leaving until the day after tomorrow. Luckily for me, I was staying at a friend's house, and they were kind enough to let me come back for an extra 2 nights. So I started my first bonus day by going to the beach. This is one of my favorites in Victoria, and also one of the most quiet and secluded in my experience. I got to see dolphins for the first time, and they were catching fish, but they were too far out in the ocean for me to try and capture them on video. One day, I'd love to get a closer look at these amazing, intelligent creatures, but for now, a glimpse is enough. I didn't film much or take many photos during my bonus days. I had already completed everything on my itinerary, so I relaxed and enjoyed the company of my friend. The next day, we had good food and drinks from one of my favorite restaurants and went for a stroll downtown. I came across some books on watercolor painting and had to talk myself out of buying every last one of them. Having to fit everything into a carry-on bag is the most effective way I've found to keep from buying too many books on a trip. On my last evening walk, I reflected on everything that's happened over the past week and a bit. All the places I've been and the things I've done, both planned and unexpected. I don't know when I will have the opportunity to come back here again. I never do. But I feel I've made the most of this trip, and I'll be returning home rejuvenated and inspired. Some words I've been trying to live by are, if you're going to do something, do it with all your heart. This can apply to almost anything, whether it's smaller, inconsequential decisions like skipping a workout, eating a special treat, RSVPing to a party, or larger, weightier ones like settling on a choice of university, quitting a job, or buying a house. It also applies if I do something for someone else's benefit, whether I'm doing them a favor or they talk me into it, because at the end of the day, the choice is still mine. If I've made a decision, I've considered my options and made a choice, then I might as well do it with all my heart. There's always going to be an element of the unknown, and maybe even regret with the path I didn't choose, and that's the scary reality that can cause analysis paralysis, a type of overthinking I personally am very prone to. However, I've also found this mantra and mindset useful when I'm thrown into a situation that's outside my control. The only thing that's ever really in my control is how I respond to a situation. And there were several of these instances on this trip where I found myself in less than fortunate situations, like when my rental car broke down in the middle of nowhere. If you watched that video, you know that I still had options, limited as they were. And I was feeling a lot of things, most of them negative and uncomfortable emotions. But I quickly accepted the reality of my circumstances and started focusing on and believing in my ability to handle them. This approach and my little mantra isn't at all about suppressing negative emotions, ignoring reality, or creating a false facade of positivity. As I mentioned before, I'm in no way a proponent of toxic positivity. Trust me, I was in disbelief when I first heard about how accepting and allowing yourself to feel your emotions actually leads to moving through them quicker. But as I've started paying more attention to it, I've come to think it must be true. I used to think that being a well-adjusted, well-balanced person meant I must be impenetrable, that nothing could upset me, nothing could get me down or shake my self-confidence. But balance isn't a static, constant state of being unaffected by the world around us. Rather, it is the ability to rebalance myself that I find valuable and what I work towards. I do think that allowing myself to feel, and in my case, sharing how I'm feeling with someone, is often the first step for me in rebalancing myself. The only downside I've experienced from this approach is that I sometimes feel that people start not to take my feelings seriously, saying things like, "I'm sure it'll be fine, you always work things out," which may be true, and while it comes from a place of trying to be helpful, it dismisses and invalidates how someone is feeling in that moment. I guess the common conception is that if someone moves through a feeling quickly, it must not have been deep, important, or even real. But what if it is just a sign of resilience? What if emotional balance is actually about experiencing a range of feelings, both positive and negative, that are a natural and healthy part of being human, and finding ways to move through them and come back again and again to a state of peace? The day has come when I'm finally flying back up north, and this time I made it through security and to my gate hours in advance and without a hitch. There are only 19 seats on this cute little plane, no bathrooms or flight attendants, and believe it or not, this is only the second smallest plane I have ever been on. I spent most of the flight reading one of the new books I picked up at my favorite used bookstore, but I kept getting distracted by the beautiful views outside my window. And despite the tinted glass, I was able to capture some aerial footage of the varied landscape of British Columbia. It's a bit of a smoky day today, but the lake is still and reflective as a mirror. While on Vancouver Island, summer still seems to be in full bloom, back home the first signs of autumn are beginning to show. The dark, lush color of the trees and grass has taken on a drier, sun-faded shade of green, and the first leaves have begun to fall. I enjoyed the warm weather and sunshine while waiting for a ferry to cross the lake, knowing full well that the evening air will be cool and crisp, and soon the days will be too. By the evening, the air quality got worse, but I still had to take my dog out for a short evening walk. Soon the autumn rain will put out the last of the wildfires and clear the air. During our stroll, I saw more signs that we have entered the brief transition period between late summer and early fall. This time of year is growing on me more and more with each passing year. It feels like a bit of everything, with the last of the flowers, the first of the rose hips and other autumn fruit, the warm sunny days and chilly dark nights. I'm looking forward to sharing my autumn adventures and my transition into the cozy season with you. Life really is a big adventure. Thank you for joining me on mine, and I will see you next week.